Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome to the first episode of the coaching series. This is actually what we do on the Patreon. So this is a VOD sent in by a patron. He specifically wanted to improve his Dredge Goku matchup. So in this video, we're focusing on that matchup, going over how to play around the board wipe a little bit. It's a really popular deck right now, really strong hand control deck. So we're going over a little bit of how to play around it. That being said, we're going to go over Novin's plays, break him down, talk about what I liked and what I think he can kind of improve upon in this matchup. Alright, so starting off, Dredge Goku with the energy and pass. Now, again, one of the main things we're focusing on here, we're focusing on how to play around that board wipe effectively, how to not get blown out by that Dredge Goku board wipe. And one of the first things I mentioned to Novin here is I don't think he should have charged the baby SCR turn 1. There's kind of two ways to play around Dredge Goku's board right here. You either have to force them to use it, or you have to put them in such a position where if they do use it, it puts them at a really low life total. So you either want to be really aggressive early, or you want to kind of not invest too much into the board so that they don't get full value out of the board wipe. But that being said, I think the Baby Janemba SCR is a great win con here because none of their counterplays really affect it. And if they dormant potential you know that the first swing that they use dormant potential on is going to go through because dormant doesn't actually stop the attack. So their negative 15k leader, they're going to either take a damage or use their board wipe effect. And then you have one more attack that if they don't use like a shocking death ball or some type of blocker, that is going to go in for damage. So the problem here now is a few things here. So Dredge Goku has the Bardock Unison established, and as soon as you see that, Bardock Raider's Warcry is a pretty dead card. So I like what Novin's doing here. I like how he's going to pressure the Unison to get it off the board, but at this point he didn't really realize yet how dead of a card Bardock is, and you're going to see him hold on to it here for a pretty long time. And one of the main things we did talk about after reviewing this gameplay was just how dead of a card the Raiders Warcry is. So here's the thing now, Novin's tempo has been pretty halted by the fact of the Bardock Unison stopping the Raiders Warcries, and his Dispo just got Frieza counterplayed. So that does hurt a bit, but at this point here, he's looking okay because he has a much higher hand size than the Dredge Goku player. He just discarded a Sand Instincts. He has another Sand Instincts in hand. So I think as long as we make the right adjustments here, I think as long as we start charging Raiders Warcries, he definitely should have discarded a Raiders Warcry on that last Gogeta activation. But that minor adjustment would help here a little bit. But now what's going to happen is the Dredge Goku player is going to pressure the Gogeta Unison a bit here, get it off the board. That is going to be rather unfortunate. Again, just really halting the tempo of the Jiren deck here. So he's going really aggressive with the Dodoria 1-drop double striker, and Dredge Goku has plenty of life to play with because we haven't forced the board wipe yet. And to be fair, there hasn't been a great opportunity to force the board wipe because of the Bardock Unison. But once you see that come down and your Raiders Warcries are no longer valid, you have to kind of adjust the other playstyle I talked about, not investing too much into the board, but putting cards into the board that create a meaningful game state. Now here's one minor thing I disagree with. Novin immediately activates the Sand Instincts. I guess he did want to awaken, however, but normally I wouldn't do that yet. When you have 3 to 4 to 5 energy, sometimes, and you actually just saw it right there, sometimes they'll do the dormant potential preemptively, even though they don't know exactly what's coming. So he could have attacked first, used Saiyan Instincts, but to be fair, he didn't want to take any more life with the Jiren leader, so I do understand that at that point. But he could have played the Gogeta Unison first and swung, got the dormant potential potentially, awoken, did the Saiyan Instincts. But either way, he got a desirable result. His opponent is at 2 cards in hand. He is at 12 cards in hand. So this is still looking pretty good. The only problem is Novin is at 3 life, as where the Dredge Goku player is at 6 life. So there is a life deficit here, but let's say that the Dredge Goku player got some of that life to his hand, Novin would still be towering him an advantage. So this is a position where you could play from where you might not be advantaged on the board, but you are very well advantaged in the hand. So knowing how to push this advantage, knowing how to maintain this advantage is going to be very, very key. However, there is going to be a minor problem here because Novin has really no protection for his Unison. So this is unfortunately another Unison that's probably going to die. So he's thinking about using the RFE there, the Release from Evil, but it's not really going to net him any value because it doesn't actually stop the attack. One of the reasons I don't love the card in the main deck, but me and Novin kind of put this deck together specifically to play best of 1 because some of the online tournaments right now are best of 1. Unfortunately, it does not have the counters here to counterplay the Power of Legend Goku, so that is going to come down pretty much, no interruptions. And notice we're still holding on to the Raiders Warcries here. Again, this is one thing I kind of drilled home with Novin, is that the Raiders Warcry in this matchup is unfortunately dead when they don't have the Bardock Unison. That is the main thing there. If they don't have Bardock Unison, you have to take every single turn you can to just drop the Bardocks. If they go for Demigod Unison, Bardock is an amazing card. You put the pressure on them early. Again, you force them to use that board wipe, but that board wipe will put them to like 4 to 3, sometimes 2 life if they feel like they have to use it. And this would have been a great matchup to show that because of the low hand size Dredge Goku is at. But it's still a very winnable game for Novin. It's still a very winnable game just based on the hand size deficit. But we got to see where it goes from here. One thing I want to note too is that even if they have the Demigod Unison, you're playing your Raiders War Cries, let's say they Frieza pop the Raiders. That's still a good exchange for you. Yeah, you lose your 20k body, but you're still drawing a card. You're still resting that Frieza or some other threat on the board. Your leader is then free to swing on that threat on their board. So that ends up being a positive exchange for you. The main problem is here, Novin is at 3 or less life, doesn't have any U11s on the field. That is a problem. But again, the hand deficit looking advantageous for him, but he's holding on to dead cards. So realistically, those two War Cries, I wouldn't even count them as cards in his hand at the moment, just because of how purely dead they are. And once I explained this to Novin before, he definitely got the idea. And that is one thing I want to do too with these videos in the future, is I want to actually have the patron or the person I'm testing with or coaching, I want to have them live on the video as well. This is the first time doing this type of video though, so a little bit of different setup, but in the future I do want to have that where the person is getting direct feedback on the video here, just so you guys are aware of that. But anyways, I think this is actually a great matchup to start this series with, because there's a lot to pull from here, a lot to learn. So it's going back to Dredge Goku's turn 5. Again, super low hand size. However, Dredge Goku is on turn 5. He's got several rebrands in the drop area that can be problematic. So Novin ends up pitching a Beerus here. Definitely should have been a Raiders Warcry pitch, just because again that card is doing absolutely nothing for him. And it's funny because you would think that Raiders is one of the best cards in the deck. It is honestly one of the best cards in the game, but a card like Bardock Paternal Unison really just invalidates the entire card. So once you kind of know that, there are sometimes really minor micro adjustments in certain matchups that, you know, you might think it's an unwinnable matchup. Like Novin was really stressing this matchup before, but once we made that minor change of, you know, disregarding Warcry when Bardock hits the field, he actually saw a lot more positive results against this matchup. So now, unfortunately, the hand size disparity has been made pretty much even. The Dredge Goku player is actually in the slight advantage because of his board state. Novin charging a Topo definitely should have been a Raiders charge. That Topo on the next turn would have actually saved him another turn most likely. He does finally get rid of the Paternal Unison here, so this is a potential point where Raiders can come into play. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the Gogeta play here. I think I would have actually just brought Raiders onto the board, done as much damage as I could with those Raiders. Now this would be a good time, since he got rid of the Unison, to force the Raiders into play, force a lot of damage through. And it would have been a similar play to using Sand Instincts here, except he would have generated more board presence, which would have been more valuable here than either playing the Gogeta or Sand Instincts. So instead of Gogeta and instead of Sand Instincts, I would have probably went double Raiders here aggressively. Probably would have tapped the Power of Legend and the Super Combo, got those off the field. I think Novin would have actually been in a very, very good spot if he would have done that. That would have been the kind of the turning point of the game. But he notices a little too late how long the Raiders have been sitting in his hand. It doesn't capitalize on the instance to use them, but that's okay. That's what learning is for. That's what this coaching is for. We're pretty much helping players get better here. So that's the whole point of this. So we're seeing how this game unfolds. Going to attack combo the Frieza here. Novin's debating whether or not he wants to use his leader's effect to take life. He does have the Kunchi on board. However, he keeps going back to read the Goku, the 5-drop Goku in his opponent's energy, and his opponent probably has the ability to play that card with the 4-drop Goku, because Dredge Goku plays to save a hopeful future, which can bring back a 4-drop green battle card from the drop area. He can then warp the different cards he needs to warp for that intensive training Sun Goku, bring out the 5-drop Goku, wipe the board of barrier, so that would pretty much invalidate Jiren's effect. He is going to pretty much use it. He kind of has no choice, but we're going to see if that board rate comes down, and we'll see what happens. So he's paying 2, playing the Paternal Unison again, and he's tapping 4. Okay, so he wants to play the Unison basically to invalidate the first combo of Novin's defense. Bringing out the Zerloin, that's going to let him play another 4-drop. So he's going to go for Piccolo here. So he's actually not going to go for the game-ending play. I think Novin's opponent could have had game if he would have went for the 5-drop Goku. Although he potentially could not have played it for some reason. Maybe he's seen all the copies of Goku, or maybe his graveyard wasn't perfectly set up to play it. Either way, though, that Piccolo is going to be pretty devastating for Novin to get around here, especially paired with that Bardock Unison. Yeah, it would have been really, really important to take advantage of that opportunity where Bardock was no longer in play. That was a very big opportunity. Gogeta's going to lose a counter here. Gogeta's going to lose another counter here. And Gogeta's going to die here. So Novin seemingly will get another turn, but at this point, because of that missed opportunity from that turn, it seems a little bit too late. There's not too much he could do. His best shot of winning this game was potentially keeping the baby Janemba SCR, but he wouldn't have had enough pressure on the board to keep it going with just the baby Janemba SCR alone. He would have needed some other battle cards to kind of help him out there, but his opponent is potentially going to Zerloin here. That is pretty much going to end Novin's turn. Novin does have the topo, but at this point, his opponent could actually just push through the topo and potentially go for game through it. So Zerloin's going to die. He is going to bring out intensive training. It might not even be live, but it's just a free battle card, so why not? So his opponent's going to combo the super combo to save the Piccolo. Novin debating on board wiping here, but it's not going to do a whole lot. Two of those guys do have barrier. He'd really just be getting rid of one battle card. That'd be a little bit rough. Again, the topo is at this point just about the only thing he's got going for him. But buying that turn, I don't think this is a point in the game where Novin's a little bit out of it. So we're getting the immediate topo drop here. Dredge Goku is going to drop the free Gohan blocker and then use the Bardock effect to make Novin discard a card. Seemingly, the Dredge Goku player has enough in the drop area to use the intensive training. Yes, he does. And at this point, he can pretty much go for game through the topo. So, yep, so that's pretty much going to be the game here. So, winning, losing, not the most important part of this coaching video. The most important part of the coaching video are the takeaways. So the main takeaways when playing against green, specifically as yellow, that could be Gotenks, that could be Sin Shenron, that could be Jiren. You need to know how to use your Raiders appropriately. That's going to be when your opponent does not have the Bardock Patrolling Unison on the board. That's going to be the number one thing. When they have it, you have to start discarding, you have to start charging your Raiders War Cries. When they don't have it, you have to take full advantage of it. Put those cards into the board, because every single time you do that, you're drawing a card off of them. So if Dredge Goku uses the board wipe ability, you lose no advantage on that. They crit 2 life after you've probably dealt a significant amount of damage already. That's one of the most important things. Baby Janemba SCR, your main SCRs are going to be very, very valid in this matchup. Some of the multicolor SCRs, you might be tempted to charge them turn 1 because they are very luring, they are very good energy. But in a matchup like Dredge Goku, where none of their counterplays really hit secret rares, that's going to be a very important thing to do, a very important thing to use there. So overall, guys, I hope you guys learned a thing or two from this video. Definitely let me know in the comments below what you think. Obviously, this is the first video of its kind. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time.